Good evening. It's 6 o'clock here on August 20th, 2015 for our August edition of the Santa Barbara Airport Commission. At this time, Mo, would you do the honors of calling roll call?
Sure. Good evening, Commissioners. Commissioner Miller.
Here.
Commissioner Houghton.
Here.
Commissioner Bowen.
Here.
Commissioners Gregg and Grabman are excused this meeting. Vice Chair Maya.
Here.
And Chair Glazier.
Here.
And we have a quorum.
Perfect. Director Haster, any changes to the agenda?
No changes to the agenda.
All right. Well, with that, Thursday, 14th, 2015 at 5 p.m., the Airport Commission's secretary duly posted this agenda on the bulletin board at the airport administration. Do we have any public comment at this time? All right, moving right along. Liaison reports. I see that Councilman Friedman is not here this evening. I know he's been excused. And then we do have Councilman Kasdan here. Can you give us an update on the good land?
Things are well in the good land. I got an email that September 6th is International Vulture Day. Audubon is presenting at the zoo. They fly. You know, I just thought it would be relevant. But anyway, everything's fine as far as airport related.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Call on Director Haster to give you a report.
Thank you, Chair Glazer. Just a few quick items. Southwest started their Phoenix service with a flight last Sunday. Right now it's limited to 1 day a week on Sundays, but that flight went out absolutely full, and they're very hopeful that that will continue and maybe expand into some different days. If you look at the report that's in your packet, we're still up 10.7% over last year. So even with some of the reduction that Southwest had on Denver and some of the other service, we are still well ahead of last year. And a lot of that service is coming back in that actually started this month and through the fall. And so I think you'll see that number even continue to grow as we go. We just completed Passenger Appreciation Week last week. We had a lot of community partners out here with us, and I'm probably going to miss some of them. I apologize. But Direct Relief, Cottage, Therapy Dogs of Santa Barbara, UCSB Athletics, and we had McConnell's out here giving out ice cream. I know I'm missing a few, but I apologize to them if they're listening. But it was a very good event in the terminal. We had a DJ out there on one day. Entertainment, giving out little prizes and other things, and the passengers really enjoyed it. We actually got a whole 3-minute spot on KUIT with their coverage of it, but really good event. Our passengers were actually really happy, and I think the biggest hit was probably the therapy dogs. We had a good 7 or so dogs, 9 dogs out there at the same time, which was interesting for the passengers getting through, but everybody loved them. Quick construction update. We had a pretty major construction project with Granite Construction out redoing a lot of the pavement out on the airfield. I would just like to give our staff kudos for doing a good job in coordination. The airlines were very concerned about this project. We had a 5-day shutdown of gates 1 and 2, so no use of the jet bridges at gates 1 and 2, making sure that all of the coordination for the morning flights and aircraft parked on the remain overnight spots being tugged over, all of that worked out. There was issues that they brought up, just concerned about wingtips going over construction areas, things like that. So we had to make some modifications to the actual aircraft parking envelope prior to the project as a temporary measure. But that 5-day shutdown went very smoothly, no issues. Airlines were happy, and the construction project was completed as planned. So just a really good effort from our team and the airlines in coordinating together as a very good project. I'm happy to report that all 3 of our aircraft rescue firefighting vehicles have been transitioned from the AFFF, the aqueous film forming foam, which contains PFAS, to the new F3 foam, the fluorine-free foam. So that's very good for us. So now, not that we want any accidents or anything to happen here, but if we go out there now, any product that we're applying as a extinguishing agent is not going to have that PFAS, forever chemical in it. It was quite a process. We had to put the new We had to first clean out the trucks from the existing foam and dispose of that. We had to flush all of the vehicles to make sure that they were clean. We had to then add the new foam, and then they had to do proportion testing to make sure that the new foam was coming out the way that it should. And I was very nervous about it with 3 different vehicles, all of varying ages, 2 different manufacturers, but all went very smoothly and actually produced less waste for us to haul off than we anticipated. Still waiting on the exact date, but it looks like the ILS modification is still in production right now with the FAA to be published in October. And I saw the actual chart on their production site. If you look it up, it's the IFP Gateway if you're interested, Instrument Flight Procedure, so IFP Gateway. You can see for any airport out there all of the different charts that they're working on, but specifically for Santa Barbara, I saw the new chart, and it does get back down to that 200-foot height above terrain. So for here, I believe it's 213. Is that right, Greg? Yeah, 213 feet. So happy to see that coming our way, and still hoping for good weather until we get there. We recently had a meeting with the FAA, our city administrator, and Public Works to talk about the outage that we had with the construction project that hit the fiber optic line. Very good meeting to make sure that we're all communicating what's going on, working with Frontier. The contract that the FAA has with, I don't know if it's specifically with Frontier, but their provider that obviously goes through Frontier was supposed to have failover capacity. And so we're working on making sure that in the future we hopefully don't have another one-day outage of all IFR traffic coming into the airport. But good to keep those communications open. Is happy to have our city administrator on that call as well. And then last but not least, we have a new employee that just started Monday, Danielle Methman. She came to us from the chamber as a part-time employee. She is our new marketing coordinator, filling the spot that Lauren Gonzalez had prior to her promotion to marketing supervisor. So we are back up to full staffing in our marketing department working for John. And I think you'll see a lot of fun new energy coming out of their department. That's all I have.
Southwest flight to Phoenix on Sunday. I assume there's one coming back from Phoenix as well. Is that on Sunday or Saturday or Monday?
So it's what they call like a quick turn. So it comes in from Phoenix and then goes back out.
Oh, okay.
So
It's got that direction.
yeah,
Great.
and with Southwest, obviously, they have so many flights now with Sacramento and Oakland and Vegas, Denver, that even if you flew out through Phoenix to go somewhere else, you could get back through one of the other airports if you were coming back on the Wednesday and there was no flight. But happy to see another option in their network.
Yeah, that's great. My other question was, any progress update on next door here for the formerly known as Elephant Bar?
I'm going to let John speak to that one because he's been the last one in touch with them.
The last update I got was he's shooting for an early September opening. So he's in the final stages of some projects to get the health department to sign off on some things, but he's looking for a September start date, so that'll be good.
That's exciting.
Opening.
It looked like there was landscaping work in progress over there.
It's definitely some major improvements to the image of that facility. It's cleaned up quite a bit.
That's great. That was it. Thank you.
Commissioner Mahler?
And first off, Chris, thanks for all you've been doing to try to get the FAA to start using the departures out over the ocean. I'm curious, I think you received the draft letter that we want to send off to our assemblyman. And just, is it looking good to you?
So I haven't had a chance to fully look at it. I emailed back to,
Frank?
I don't remember if it's Frank or Charles that sent the draft. We need to change the language a little bit in it, but overall, it's not far off.
Good. That's good to hear. I'm glad you're getting a chance to make sure we've got it right. Okay, that was my only question.
Sure.
Since we're following the director's report and my favorite airline came up, Southwest.
Did they fly to Amsterdam? No.
One of our state legislators made an inquiry with me about improving the timing of flights to Sacramento. And so we may want to put that on our agenda when we meet with Southwest. It'd be nice if there was an 8 a.m. flight going up in time to get into the Capitol buildings by 9:30 and maybe a 5 o'clock return. Apparently there's been some changes and now they have to come in the night before.
So thank you for the feedback. We definitely share that with them. We've always been pushing for a second flight a day on them as well. I will say that in our discussions with them, sometimes it's a matter of be happy with the service that you have because we have aircraft availability issues, and that's the only slot that we could squeeze it into. But we will share that feedback with them. They do understand that it's our state capital and that we have a lot of very quick one-day meetings and things like that that happen. We'll be happy to continue to share that with them.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, Councilman Cassidy.
I don't know if that was what Paul was referring to, at least in part, but any updates you can provide on the noise working group and the progress with respect to, well, the various groups you've been talking to?
So just a couple of quick updates. So we haven't really had much progress since the last meeting to demonstrate, but we are making positive progress forward. We did send out a little update to the noise working group that listed all of the city requests that had been back and forth and kind of where we are on those. I'll be happy to share that with you after the meeting. The big items that we're working on right now, or the big item we're working on right now, is really trying to work to bring a consultant in to look at those approaches and departures. We had a little bit of an issue with the agreement not being our standard city agreement. We've worked through most of those issues, and now we're refining the statement of work with that consultant, and we expect to have that mid to late this month to share with the noise working group to then move forward with the contract. So didn't plan to report on it exactly because we don't really have real progress, but we are making strides towards that. And then I think at the next meeting that we have, there will be some really good work going into looking at those approaches and making some real headway on potentially reducing the noise if we're successful.
So as far as getting concurrence from LA, the control tower and so forth, it sounds like without having this study done, they're resistant.
So that's where we have two different things going on. The consultant coming on will also help us out with that. I won't go so far as to say that we can't do it without them. So we are still working on that without them. I wouldn't phrase it as resistance, and so this is where I'm working with the noise working group to tweak the language a little bit. They're not resistant to looking at it and helping us out. It's just work that they have to do and getting that into their schedule and prioritizing it. And so the noise working group is looking to have Salud Carbajal kind of put a little bit of pressure on them, focusing on that. If it doesn't get focused on prior to the contract with this noise consultant or this approach consultant, then they are also in their task of work going to be assisting us with that coordination, since they have all of the inside connections to the FAA and air traffic control and speak the same language for what are the different effects that we have to look at for tweaking how we want them to operate out of here.
Well, that's something that Congressman Carbajal, if it's really just like a workload and prioritization as opposed to resistance, that's something he can probably be pretty helpful with.
Any other questions? Any speaker slips at this time? I figured not. Moving on to the consent calendar. Commissioners, do you have any questions or clarifications on the consent calendar? Looking pretty good. Any speaker slips?
No speakers.
Public comment? No? Can I get a motion for approval of the consent calendar?
I move we approve the consent calendar.
Thank you.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstained? That passes unanimously. Thank you. Director Hastert, back over to you for item number 10.
Thank you, Chair Glazer. So this is a quick item that honestly could have gone on the consent agenda, but this is something that's going to be coming up more and more often as we look at developing some of the properties north of Hollister for the non-aviation uses. So I wanted to bring your attention to this item so you have a very good understanding of what it is that's going on with this request and what may be coming for the future. Understand the process and what you're recommending to the City Council. And I think the letter spelled it out fairly well, but it didn't necessarily talk about some of the small intricacies of what we're doing. So the Surplus Land Act was passed, and really the focus of the Surplus Land Act was on government-owned property and anything that has to do with what could be viewed as disposal of the property. So that could be sale or long-term leases, especially if there's a change in use. And so there's a process in the Surplus Land Act that you have to go through to make sure that housing is a priority for any government property that is basically surplus. Now, in the first passage of the Surplus Land Act, or maybe even one modification of it, there is a specific exemption for airports. We, as an airport, we can't put residential units on airport property. There's very strong FAA guidance for that. And we wouldn't have necessarily had to go through the process that we're going through now. Since then, there has been a slight modification to the Surplus Land Act that still has a potential exemption for airports, but you have to go through a process to show that it truly is exempt and not just have some piece of property maybe slip through the cracks or something like that. So the recommendation tonight is to, I want to state it properly here. Give me a second. One page away. Oh, still on the wrong one. Yeah, so that the Airport Commission recommend that City Council adopt, actually this is the language, I thought I changed a little bit, a resolution exempting the property located at 6050 Hollister Avenue and 140 Frederick Lopez Road. So that those two parcels that we're talking about are the corner that's across from Dean Coffee, right adjacent to the economy lot. So John in our property section works with several different developers, real estate brokers, other people who have various different interests. As we spoke to the city attorney about what uses are allowed, things like that, one of the items that came up was how long is this going to be leased for? And obviously if you're doing a major development, they have to amortize their expenses, all of that. And so it would be a long-term lease for most uses that are going to build something. And anything over 15 years triggers the Surplus Land Act requirement. So technically, we're not supposed to be negotiating with anybody. So we don't have a project to bring forward to you right now. I don't have any answers that I can give you about what are you looking to do on that. We have to go through this process to declare it surplus property, bring it forward with a recommendation that it is exempt. As a part of that process, our city attorney has sent the draft resolution to the HCD, Housing Community Development Department with the state, and they concur that they believe it is exempt as well. So now we have to publish it in the local paper, bring a resolution to council, have that approved, and then we can give John the go-ahead to start working on negotiating development of that piece of property. So this is the first one that we've actually gone through as the airport. You will see a lot more, hopefully, in the future as we look to do longer-term projects. Anything that has a change of use or is a 15-year or longer lease, you will see more of those coming through. This is a small one. We wanted to do a test run through the process without jeopardizing a major piece of our property over there, but I think you will see some other ones coming through in the future. So it's still going to be approximately 60 days or so before we can even get this all the way through council, everything else. And then hopefully not too long after that, we may, have some type of a project, hopefully something exciting to bring back to the commission for review and recommendation for a longer term lease. But I wanted to just let you understand this isn't a piece of property we are trying to sell. So even though you hear surplus property, this would still be property owned by the airport with a long-term lease moving forward for some type of a development. And then once we go through this process, then we can start to get into what are the uses, who's going to develop it, all of that, and bring that back to the commission. So with that, I don't know if there's anything else John wanted to add it or if you have any questions.
Questions?
It seems a little bit like a double negative here. So in adopting this, it would still remain deemed incompatible for residential use, or it's exempt from
So it's exempt from the requirements of the Surplus Land Act, which normally would require us to offer that property up first to any of the housing agencies in the area as a priority for a housing project. So by declaring it exempt and passing that resolution, we can skip that process of offering it up to housing agencies because technically we can't allow a housing agency to build there anyway. So it basically saves a lot of time not going through the full process of the Surplus Land Act, which has to do with building housing.
Got it. Thank you. That's very clarifying.
Just a quick question. Now, we're talking about that beautiful prime real estate at the corner. Are we also including the old drive-in that we use for parking?
So we are not. As I mentioned, there will be other ones that come forward. I would have loved to just declare the whole thing on the north side, but I think that would have added to the complication for the review because it gets very technical as you get further away from the airport and other things. The old, what we use as the economy lot right now, I think it has definitely some potential for different types of uses in the future. I still don't see the day that we won't use it for some sort of parking, whether that be just in peak periods or other. So until we get to a point where maybe we have a parking structure or something other for the terminal, we're not looking at any type of alternative uses other than temporary. Sometimes John might rent it out for rental car parking when they have an overflow or something like that, but we're not looking for any long-term development, and so none of that would trigger the Surplus Land Act.
Very good. Thank you.
Vice Chair Maya.
How does a property or city-owned, government-owned property become declared as surplus land? And just, for example, we have lots of developments here that are not being used for a government purpose. Could those become surplus land when a lease comes up, and would we have to deal with this and potentially convert some of our existing commercial properties, well, if it weren't for this exemption, to residential properties? And might other departments of the city be dealing with that as well?
So so the city is definitely dealing with that on a lot of their different properties if they have any hopes of doing something that's not residential, and that's a whole different aspect that they have to evaluate for all of their pieces. For all of our properties, our understanding is it would be exempt, but there are different things that trigger that. So if you have existing long-term leases, it doesn't trigger it. If you're entering potentially even into a long-term lease, but there's no change in the use of the property, sometimes that doesn't trigger it. But definitely if you're doing a long-term lease and it's a change in the use of the property, it's going to trigger this process. So for anything that we do on the airport, and honestly, I haven't talked to them about it yet, but probably even our FBO developments, when we bring those forward, we probably have to do the same process. And so it's not that we're declaring any of it surplus, but the Surplus Land Act calls for different criteria that trigger that process.
Is there a way to streamline the process maybe in the future where we could declare the entire airport as a surplus land exempt?
Yeah, as I mentioned, that would be my dream
Yeah.
to do that. I think that the city attorney's office is a little bit more cautious because as we look at certain parcels and we have some interest in them, doing one piece at a time is a little less dangerous than having something go afoul if you try to do a whole big piece. So
Yeah. Suddenly we've got houses in the middle of 2.5. Okay, thank you.
In the unlikely event that this gets declined, what does the time frame look like, and what can we do moving forward? Is there an appeal? How does this look?
So it's not even necessarily an appeal or anything like that. We are declaring it exempt from the Surplus Land Act, and that goes through a city process. And I don't, other than if there's some kind of comment that comes in during the publication period and it gets pulled, it's going to be approved. If there is some kind of comment or if there's somebody who's protesting it, then it would likely be pulled, in which case there is the regular process that you go through with the Surplus Land Act, which requires different levels of notification and time periods. And I'm just going to guess on this one without knowing exactly all this detail, probably adds 6 months to a project.
Okay. Any other questions? Any public comment? Okay. So our recommendation is the Airport Commission recommend that the City Council adopt by reading of title only the resolution of the City Council or the Council of the City of Santa Barbara exempting the property located at 6050 Hollister Avenue and 140 Frederick Lopez Road from the Surplus Land Act provision pursuant to Government Code Section 54221 F1Q. Can I get a motion to approve that?
I so move.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Nope. Any abstain? Nope. Looks like it passes unanimously. And with that, I believe we stand adjourned. 6:25.
Thank you.
Thank you all.